What is up? Matt Pratt here. Back in the shop tonight. It's freezing cold and I gotta get some progress done on this Porsche. Pretty much we decided to change the look up last minute. I agree with the change. I don't agree with the parts. They're kind of complicated and we got a lot of work to do. Anyways, let's jump on this. But don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share, whatever, all that other crap, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to work. So this is gonna be kind of hard to film this. Let me try it though. But this piece doesn't fit very well. It used to actually have an issue fitting up here. So I have to relieve that pressure. So I cut down here, I cut down here, and it actually looks like it wants to lay there by itself. Now of course that's sticking out. So how do I relieve that? I might actually have to get this to push down, I might have to like pie cut it here and twist it in. Which means I'm gonna have to re-fiberglass the hell out of this thing, but I mean that's what it takes, you know, to make these things fit. You know, so but that, I mean that isn't too bad. It's down here I'm gonna have the issue. So let's make a couple more pie cuts and see if I can relieve some more stress so it can wrap around this body a little better. So I just mocked up the fender. Just because I needed to know exactly where I'm going to position the side skirt, and let's see, that's a huge gap, so this is going to have to be spliced too, but at least I can get an idea of kind of where it's going to be at. This is going to be interesting. And if that don't look confusing, so I already made my pie cuts here that helped close this gap up. It's still a little springy, but what I'm going to do is probably put a big clamp in there to clamp it down. I'm going to grind these edges down, and then I'm going to put fiberglass over it, and then when the fiberglass dries it should help hold all that down. Looks like over here is doing the same thing, and before I do that I have to, you know, mount it all up underneath there, get those mounts right, then I can start making this side shape to the body. Over here is going to be interesting. There is a huge gap here. I don't know, maybe this fender is supposed to be flared out a little bit more. I somehow have to make this piece fit this a little better, and that is going to be interesting. I mean, I might be cutting this completely off like that and then having a piece of fiberglass just wrap around it. That's gonna suck. So there's no way, I mean, I guess I could like make that happen. Might do that, but it looks like it's going to need a relief cut here. I'm going to have to clamp that around, do the same thing, but there's a lot of pressure there. It's going to need to be pie cut underneath just to let that piece spin around. So it doesn't look bad, done worse. Alright, so I forgot to bring home some better clamps from work. I actually have a variety of these, but I forgot them, so we're gonna kind of do it the getaway for now, just because I want to keep rolling on it. So I made a couple splices here, and here. They are, you know, kind of like relief cuts, and what they do is they just let the fiberglass form, gives it a little bit of a break. You can see it's got a little bit of gap in each one of these. So the deal is we do the relief cuts, everything kind of lays in place. It's kind of being forced there right now, and I'm going to spread some fiberglass filler over that, and then hopefully when it dries it'll keep it like that. So the product we're going to be using is Fiberall. It's from U-Paul. It's pretty cheap and it's pretty durable. Alright, we had our heat lamp sitting on here for about 5 minutes or so. I mean, all this stuff is rock hard. So let's pop these clamps off and see what happens. Alright, so I have it sitting a kind of high. It's kind of hard to fit it up. It sucks because I really should fit the front up and then I should fit the rear up, but we just decided to work on the rear first. Maybe I'll do the opposite on the other side. But anyways, we kind of got a pretty smooth fitment. I want it a little closer though. I think it needs one more relief cut right here. And then I can glass this whole thing, and then I'll do the other side. So let's do that real quick. Let's cut it up one more time. So far I made a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cuts, and I think it needs 6 in order to get it as close as I want it to be. So at least we'll know this for the other side. I know it looks kind of ugly right now, but it's kind of how it goes when you're like test fitting all this stuff. Alright, I tried something a little different, and we're gonna see if it works. Yeah. Alright, so this time I put the glass on the inside. I grinded up the inside of this real thin, well pretty thin, to make it more flexible, and then I put some tape down to protect the panel so my filler doesn't stick to the panel, and then I fiberalled the inside, and hopefully it'll hold it from the inside. And then what I'll be able to do is sand down the outside really well, and then finish the outside, and then on the inside I'll grind that down, and hopefully it doesn't move, and I'll be able to put some fiberglass mat in there with some resin and everything, and that will be the main strength point of it. Alright, I think that did the trick. The piece is just sitting up there. It's gonna fall. Doing this one-handed. But you see, I just put a little bit of glass on the back of it, pie cut it, relief cut, whatever you want to call it, and now fasten it, and it fits pretty good. So what I can do now is grind up this side a little bit, clean up the edges, and then I'll glass just one skim little coat over it, just to make sure all of my little separations here, you know, are all connected, and then that'll be ready for some filler and then primer. So, but let's start fitting up this side. This side's gonna need a relief cut there, and underneath is going to need a relief cut because it doesn't actually want to hug the rocker. So, all right. And the ugliness continues. So this thing's shape wasn't right, so I did some relief cuts, and now I'm trying to get it to curl so it wraps better around the rocker area. And this side needed to be shortened, and I have to take this little curl out of it. So I shortened it first. We'll see how that holds, but then after I get that set up, I'm going to mount it onto the bottom of the car and then use some clamps to press it. And that's pretty much how I'm going to work the front. So I cut it here and shortened it, and it fits pretty good there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put actually fiberglass where I taped here. I'll show you, I can pull it out now. But I'm going to dump fiberglass all right in there, press this up against it, squeeze it tight, let it dry, and when it dries it should pop right off of the tape. It won't stick to the tape, and I'll have my new mold for this. And then I can shape it from there. That's a good sign. There we go. And that's about what it's going to look like for a little bit. I'm going to have to grind all that stuff out of there and clean it up, and then we can do the other side. Alright, so the piece didn't go really as planned. I actually thought I had it fitted up nice, and then I glassed it, you know, put fiberglass all over it, the fiberglass filler. And then I got impatient and I was like, you know what, let me lamp it. And I lamped it, and then I let it sit overnight. And then I go to put it back on the car to test fit it, and it didn't fit. Figures, right? So I was like, okay, I'll just have to pie cut it a little bit more. And yeah, I had to butcher it, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even film it because it took so long. It was literally a couple hours a night just trying to fit it, getting frustrated going inside. I didn't want to lamp it, and it's cold as hell out here, so it took forever for the fiberglass to dry. So let me show you what I got now, and then we pretty much have to pick up where we left off earlier. Alright, this is where we're at, and I'm happy with it. It actually is angled down a little bit with this line. Anyways, so there's our line, and we're good with it, and the gap in here isn't that bad. What happened before is I mudded the backside, pressed it up against there, clamped it down with all these clamps, and it looked good. Then I guess it was pretty thin on the inside, so then I started mudding the outside. And what I beat my mud is my fiberglass filler, my fiber off, and then I lamped it, and I guess it tightened up, so it pulled this out. So this has this like crazy curve to it. I guess it's because I dried it way too fast. And in order to get that curve back out, man, I had to cut this way. I had to cut up all up under the bottom, because under the bottom it didn't want to fit right. And then it didn't want to fit real tight against here, but this is good. It's really tight here and here where it should be. You can actually get away with Porsches by putting like one rivet here or one fastener there to hold this whole system on. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I should have a pretty good gap. Alright, pretty happy with all this fitment. I do have to redo this gap a little bit, so I might have to add some there. But all of that looks really good. And it's mounted on there nice and tight. So the next step is over here. We have to, this is gonna drop. Whoa. So this looks pretty good, like squish that together, everything's good. In here we're gonna have to build a lip. That's okay, when I fiberglass mat the hole inside of it, I'll build a lip there. And then the problem is under here, this, you know, I have a huge hole here that I gotta fasten to where the thing mounts to. So I'm gonna put my tape back up here, and then I guess what I can do is I gotta get this to sit. I gotta get this to sit against this, and the best way to do that is I'm gonna have to build like a bridge right here with fiberglass, let it dry, and then I can pop this whole thing off and re-fiberglass mat it. Now the way I mounted this thing onto here is I did use some cheesy self-tappers, and it's just because it's real quick, zip zip, and it holds it on. I'm gonna put an automobile style anchor and screw in there to fasten on there like the right way, but for now self-tappers is okay to use. So alright, let's get going on this. So I kind of take some fiberglass filler and I spread it like that. And like I said, it's really hard to see under here, I don't have my light, but I have like a 2-inch gap from here to here because it mounts to the underneath the Porsche like that. And of course it didn't want to mount together. What it was doing, it was pulling my alignment off. So I have to keep this gap here so I can get to the inside, so I can take it off, get to the inside, and lay fiberglass mat in there. In order to hold my gap, it's best to do it on the car so you know it fits. This is what I'm going to do. I build this little bridge here by just taking a couple rows of tape and spreading some fiberglass on there. Now I'm going to stick that underneath the car, and hopefully when it hardens up it makes it nice and solid, and then I can take this whole thing off, get to the inside, and lay in more fiberglass. Alright, we have the side skirt on the operation table. Now, usually, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay fiberglass mat in here. I'm going to soak this thing down with resin, and then I'm going to lay the fiberglass mat over all of this. And usually I'll use like cardboard. This time I just use tape because you can't see where this is going. It's just all for reinforcement, and you know, it doesn't need to be like cosmetically perfect or anything like that. It just needs to do its job. So tape is fine, and I have some here because I need to build this lip bigger. I got this entire part over here sanded to reinforce that. And the ugly, you haven't even seen the inside of this panel yet, but you can see every single little pie cut that I made to make this piece fit is all sanded down, and I'm going to rebuild the lip on there too. So got my table covered in paper just to make sure that the resin I get on here I can peel back off, and that's it. I think we are good to go. So time to get messy.
cut it right there. I'm gonna let this stuff dry. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, all that stuff, and I'll see y'all next video. Oh yeah, check out some of the other Porsche videos.